Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Did you know that you have two different sets of DNA? One for your body and one for your mitochondria. On the show today, we talk about the mighty mitochondria, the powerhouse of your cells, and the importance of keeping them in tip-top shape for your health. Learn what mitochondria are, the role they play in the aging process, and what problems and diseases you can run into if your mitochondria become dysfunctional. Find out what simple actions you can take to keep your mitochondria firing on all cylinders and feeling great so you can age gracefully. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Live Forever Young Radio. I'm Bob. I am here with Rollie to talk about mitochondria today.
Yes,
Rollie,
we're here.
How are you doing?
Good, buddy, good. We're excited because we're talking about the thing that really gets down to the nitty-gritty of a human body, which is our mitochondria, the mighty mitochondria, right? And we're going to talk about the main things that you could do to avoid having dysfunctional mitochondria, the problems it can cause, and the things that you definitely don't want any part of, and then what you could do to make sure that doesn't happen, and if you are experiencing it, maybe how to get it under control. So we hope you like the show today.
Yeah, so Rollie, most people have heard of mitochondria, some may not have. And so what are mitochondria?
Right.
They are these little things called organelles that are inside your cells. So if you imagine a cell is like your fist and you're able to open it up, you'd see all these little dots that are these little energy producing machines, like little engines that are working like crazy to spit out energy so that the rest of the cell has energy to live on, to function on, perform its functions.
Those are the organelles. They're like the batteries?
Well, and there are many different types of organelles, but mitochondria is one type of organelle.
Gotcha.
And they do many things, but their primary responsibility is to produce energy.
Cool.
And they're like spitting off these little bits of energy that the rest of the cell is absorbing and using.
Cool.
And then the mitochondria itself within the cells have little networks, and they're actually communicating through to different cells, and cells themselves are communicating with neighboring cells, and the mitochondria help with this communication.
Okay. Sounds like a dance.
Yeah. And so this is an important part also, is mitochondria have their own DNA. So normally when people think of DNA, they think about the nucleus of a cell where the DNA is, okay? But in these little mitochondria, they also have DNA. And the DNA is much, much less robust in terms of its numbers of genes and the number of proteins it's encoding for.
Okay.
Because over time, over many hundreds of millions of years, the DNA that was originally in the mitochondria kind of donated itself to the nucleic DNA.
Okay.
And only left itself with a small number of genes, like 37 different genes, and it only makes about 13 proteins, whereas the totality of your body makes about 100,000 different proteins.
Okay.
But those 13 proteins are really important, including 4 of them, which are directly involved in the production of the energy.
Okay, so basically there's the nucleic DNA, which is not the same as the mitochondrial DNA.
Yeah.
The mitochondrial DNA is its own thing.
Yeah.
And there's about 13 proteins that it produces.
Yeah. And 4 of them, they know, are directly related to this creation of energy.
Okay.
And they actually know which of the 4 proteins does which thing.
Okay.
And what they all end up doing to produce this energy as the end result.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's in depth, but I like it.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, you have 2 kinds of DNA. That's what it means. But it's important to know because this is extremely valuable DNA, right? Because it's making the energy that your body needs, and without it, you wouldn't be able to live.
No.
Right? And so, because 95% of all your energy is made in your mitochondria.
Okay.
Right? So, without that DNA that is producing these proteins, that's helping to produce the energy, you wouldn't have human life.
Okay.
So that's why it's important.
That's why it's important.
And
very important.
We're going to talk a lot about protecting your mitochondria,
Right.
okay, including the DNA inside your mitochondria, because as we age, and this being Live Forever Young Radio,
Right.
as we age, the mitochondria don't function as well, and your age, your physical age, right, is directly related to the health of your mitochondria. So that's why this is so important. So you could have a person that's 50 years old and another person 50 years old, but if one of them hasn't been caring for their mitochondria and it's getting old and it's not functioning as well, that person is going to physically look a lot older than the person who has healthy mitochondria.
Wow. So
Okay.
basically, this is if you don't have it, if you don't have the mitochondrial functioning properly, not only are you going to not feel good, but it's actually going to cause you to age faster in a way.
Yes, it's going to cause you to age faster. And so in a little bit, we're going to talk about the different things you have to do to maintain healthy mitochondria, including the nutritional aspects.
Right.
And some nutrients that you can get in nutritional supplements that help tremendously.
Yes, we actually did a podcast called The New Science of Anti-Aging, where we go over a lot of that, but this is going to be kind of a different look at the mitochondrial side of it.
Yeah.
The little microscopic side, as opposed to the whole overview like we did
And
in
you'll
that show.
you'll find as we go, we'll talk a little bit about a combo of two products called the Dynamic Combo.
Right.
That contains everything that you need from a nutritional standpoint and an inflammation standpoint that you need in order to have healthy mitochondria.
Yeah, we call it the dynamic combo. It's actually the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator or Heirloom barley or sprouted barley seeds. And you can go to boomerboost.com.
And find the Dynamic Combo.
Yeah, you can just search dynamic combo and it'll pull it up.
And so let's tell people about why that Dynamic Combo is important, and also why increasing your oxygen and increasing exercise is important, keeping your inflammation down and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, I think where we were with the dysfunctional mitochondria. We were talking about how it causes premature aging, and we were talking about how if the mitochondria causes or creates energy, then having a dysfunctional mitochondria, you would lose energy. That's one of the other things. You lose energy. And then because you have cells that are dysfunctional, it can lead to mutations. And eventually it can actually be a cause of cancer.
Yes, absolutely. And there is a whole theory of cancer that it's actually a mitochondrial disease. And it's poor functioning mitochondria that cause a cell to become cancerous.
Yeah, so again, very important.
Yes, so here's one of the main things. So mitochondria are only as healthy as the level of inflammation in your body, meaning the higher your inflammation, the more damage occurs to your mitochondria and the less functional they are. And so it's a good thing to know your inflammation. You want to know how much inflammation is in your body so you can do things to get it down if you need to.
Right.
So this is a blood test called CRP,
Right.
or C-reactive protein, and you want that number to be below 0.5. Most people, it's around 3, which is 6 times higher than you need it to be, and that's why people's mitochondria don't stay healthy for their whole life long. By the time you get to be about 75, if you have a high level of inflammation, your mitochondria are going to become dysfunctional. You're going to start to suffer from numerous different types of diseases, adult onset diseases. Okay, so what are the things that keep inflammation high, particularly at your mitochondria, is having iron levels that are too high. Right?
Okay.
So we know that mitochondria, because they're powerhouses, are throwing off molecules of superoxide, which are highly caustic molecules that are burning your body up. And it's also throwing off hydrogen peroxide. And when you have high iron, the iron interfaces with the hydrogen peroxide and creates a molecule similar to superoxide, but even more caustic.
Okay.
And so you want your iron level to be high enough so that it works properly inside of your red blood cells.
Okay.
Right? And because your hemoglobin molecules require iron in order to transport oxygen.
Right.
And guess what? Oxygen is a very, very important part of the health of your mitochondria and the ability to produce energy. So you want iron to bring oxygen to the cells, okay? But if you have too much iron, then it's going to cause extensive inflammation and damage to your mitochondria.
Yeah,
right?
and we know a couple people who have high iron, and one of the ways, an easy way to kind of deal with it is giving blood.
Yes.
That way you can kind of, relieve the amount of iron in the blood that way. There's also some other supplements you might want to look at that can assist with it. But yeah, too much iron creates
Too much
something
inflammation.
Too much inflammation, even worse than what you said, superoxide.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And so watch your iron level, and when you go to give blood, they will tell you your iron level, and you want it to be in the middle of the range to lower, right? If it starts to creep up above the middle of the range, then you probably have excessive inflammation.
Okay.
Right? So the other thing is that just in general, the production of energy is creating inflammation,
Right.
but also our bodies produce antioxidants from our genetic code.
Right.
So we have a code to make a neutralizing molecule for superoxide. It's called superoxide dismutase. Okay? And so while people are young, their mitochondria are pretty healthy because they're making lots of SOD. Okay?
Gotcha.
But as you age, you make less SOD, and so now you have more inflammation, and your mitochondria begin to age faster, and therefore you age faster.
Right.
So you want to be able to take in SOD
Right.
by mouth as you age, so it can replace what you've kind of stopped making.
Right.
And that is one of the compounds in our dynamic compound.
Correct. In the gladiator or heirloom barley, there's large amounts of SOD. And because obviously when we get older, just like almost everything, we stop making as much SOD, again, superoxide dismutase, to combat the superoxide and the free radicals and the inflammation that's causing us to burn up like a log in a fire. We want to slow that down. Right?
Exactly.
So we include the SOD in the barley.
Yeah. And the other thing is really important for keeping your inflammation down is diet, right? So
Right.
most people eat too much sugar.
It's America. It's the American way. We actually talked about America's sugar addiction in a show we did. So it's called America's Sugar Addiction. Check it out.
So too much sugar is going to create lots of inflammation.
Right.
Okay. We won't go into exactly how that happens because that's in that other podcast.
Check out the other podcast.
Right? So you want to eat less sugar,
Right.
and eat more good fats.
Correct.
Okay. Because when you can burn fat for fuel, okay, it's much more efficient, and you produce a lot less superoxide, and so you have less inflammation.
Exactly.
Okay. And so that's that inflammation part of it.
Right.
The other part is nutrition.
Correct.
Human bodies need energy. Ultimately, the way mitochondria make energy is from the food that you eat.
Correct.
Right? And so that's why you want to have very efficient burning good fats, right? But you also need micronutrients that help and macronutrients that will help to make your mitochondria function properly.
Right.
So some of the micro ones are coenzyme Q10.
Yes.
All right. Part of the dynamic combo, as is the B vitamins and magnesium. All right. Also, alpha lipoic acid and acetyl L-carnitine.
Right.
We know that all of these are important micronutrients, right? But we also know the macronutrients, you're going to need good fats.
Sure.
Right?
Have to have that.
And you're also going to need amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, which are macronutrients. And you also have to have metabolic enzymes, which are the glue that helps to take these amino acids and make them into proteins.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going to make 13 different proteins from the mitochondrial DNA.
Right.
They're going to be made from amino acids with metabolic enzymes. And so you need to make sure you're taking in an adequate amount of those by mouth. Again, all of those nutrients are in the dynamic combo.
Right, yeah, boomerboost.com. Again, go there, check out the dynamic combo. It'll give you some really good information on the products. There's a bunch of good FAQs there. And you'll be able to also, if you want to search up more information on inflammation, go to the search bar at boomerboost.com. You can type in inflammation, see all of our previous podcasts, and also what products can help lower it,
Exactly. The other thing, Rollie, is oxygen. Ultimately, you have to have oxygen at the site in the mitochondria where the energy is being made. Right now, humans are taking up oxygen by breathing air. Do most people maximize their capability to uptake oxygen? No, because most people are sitting too much. They're not exercising. They're not doing deep breathing exercise. Right. And so we have enough oxygen to stay alive, but not really as much oxygen as we need to produce the maximum energy that we're looking for. Right? And so have a system of deep breathing exercises that you do, whether it's yoga, meditation, bioenergetic breathing exercises, very important to do. And one way that significantly uptakes your oxygen is exercise.
Absolutely.
Right. And so exercise affects the mitochondria in a few different ways. Two most important are when you exercise, your body needs more energy.
Right.
So it actually signals your body to make more mitochondria.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And so you actually can increase the number of mitochondria in a cell by exercising. Right. And not only that, but you have old mitochondria that are not functioning very well, that need to be cleared out and disposed of to make room for new, and exercise helps with that too. It'll help to say, okay, these mitochondria are not participating, helping us with this exercise. Let's get rid of them and make some new ones. And while we're at it, we'll make extra ones because this person is exercising.
Nice.
Now, we also know the type of exercise is exercise that goes in fast bursts, right? So we've talked before about peak 8 exercise.
Yes.
And we had Dave Spinelli on with us talking about exercise.
Absolutely. Right? The importance of fitness for your health.
Yes. And so peak 8 is simply 8 repetitions of a burst of exercise. Say it's fast walking, running, a bicycle, something like that. And you'll do that for 30 seconds. And then you'll take 90 seconds to recover, which means slow walking, slow biking. Right. So it's 30, then 90, then another burst of 30 where you're going to pedal as fast as you can or walk as fast as you can. And then rest 90. And you do that 8 times.
And that's getting your cardiovascular system going.
Right.
It's getting the lungs to open up so that air can get in there and you can start putting more oxygen in the body and helping with the whole idea of new mitochondria, ridding old mitochondria, getting rid of the bad guys who aren't doing anything and making way for new ones.
That's right. And that's the basics of it.
Yeah.
Rollie. So
there's a lot more to it, but man,
Yep, that's the basics of it. And so if people can watch their inflammation by watching their iron, right? Watch your diet, less sugar, more good fats, take your antioxidants, okay, from the dynamic combo, right? Make sure you have the right micronutrients from your dynamic combo, and exercise and breathe and get your oxygen moving more. What will happen is your mitochondria will be very healthy. They won't be damaged by all this inflammation, including the DNA, the mitochondrial DNA, will stay healthy, and it'll continue to express for the building of these proteins, which helps make the energy.
Right.
Right. And this way you can stay healthy. You can live forever young.
That's right.
For many, many decades, and you don't have to be the person that's worried about the average age of 78 years old, and by that time, people have gotten an adult onset disease.
Right.
Their life has been miserable for the previous 5 years,
No, we don't. No.
and they've died from heart disease, stroke, cancer,
Diabetes.
Alzheimer's disease, diabetes. Okay, so keep your mitochondria healthy, and you'll find as you look back from 100 years,
Right.
when you're 100, you're going to look back and you're going to go, boy, in 2022, when Boomers put out that podcast about mitochondria, I'm so glad I watched it and I did what they suggested, because now I'm a healthy 100-year-old.
And you read my mind. It's live forever young, right? It's not just a name. It's a lifestyle, man. You gotta live it to be
Live
it.
young. Live young. Keep your mitochondria young. You'll live young.
Amen.
Rollie, thanks very much.
Always.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Live Forever Young Radio. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.